X-Men 97, X-Men Unlimited, X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, New X-Men, X-Men the Animated Series, Wolverine and Deadpool. The X-Men. For me, the X-Men have always been kind of my team. You know, I grew up with the Justice League, I grew up with the Avengers, I grew up with the X-Men, I grew up with Ben 10's team, for Christ's sake, and yet, still, to this day, there's never been a single time where I've wavered. Always the X-Men. Here's the thing about the X-Men. There's like 7,000 fucking adaptations of them. I mean, there's different writers, different artist writers, different animators, different directors. They all have their own interpretations. Interpretation is kind of an interesting word to me in the sense of what are you allowed to interpret about a character and what makes the character the character? What do I mean? Can you typecast a fictional character? In the sense of the X-Men, I think while it's possible, and it happens, there are very interesting workarounds. Depending on all types of stuff. In the case of X-Men Evolution, one of the major changes for me in terms of a typecast of a character was Wolverine. Wolverine, usually I see him on equal footing, whether that be with a Cyclops, whether that be with a Jean Grey or a Beast. And yet, in X-Men Evolution, he takes much more of a side role. He's still a prominent character, of course, but the story focuses mostly around the kids. It's Scott, Jean, Rogue, Kitty more than fucking Logan. To me, that's welcome. He's still typecast as rough and grumbly. You see in the first episode, he's coming back from having left the team for whatever reason that may be.
Trouble at home.
You lose a lot in an adaptation like the MCU. For me, Deadpool and Wolverine, while it was kind of a riot, you take characters like Wolverine, Deadpool, and Gambit. I think of the first thing that comes to mind when I think Deadpool is actually Nolan North's Deadpool from the video game. I never played the video game. I watched gameplay, as I want to say most kids my age did at the time. But he struck me more as someone who was not Ryan Reynolds with a mask on and more his own character who was also funny. And then in the MCU, Wolverine and Deadpool, and I know I mentioned Gambit already, but they're all kind of caricatures of what they usually are. Is that a bad thing? I would say no. It works for what Deadpool is as a movie. Is it unfortunate in terms of like what I want to see in an MCU version of X-Men? Regardless of that. When I see Gambit, while a lot of him is attached to Rogue and their relationship, he's still one cool motherfucker. So watching him light up the world, whether that be his playing cards or whether that be his staff in Deadpool and Wolverine, it's insane. But you play into the accent and it feels jokey in a way where it's not supposed to be. Ryan Reynolds tweeting, "Oh my god, this is what the people need. People need more Gambit, Channing Tatum." Well, people need more Gambit, Channing Tatum. I do, but not if it's going to be a comedy. That's not what I see Gambit as. Is that wrong? Because I'm kind of arguing against the point of typecasting anyways. When I think of Superman, I think of the most boring character to ever exist. Someone like, I won't even say like a Brendan Routh or Christopher Reeve. I'm sorry, someone like a Grant Morrison Superman. If you don't know who Grant Morrison is, they rock. They're the best. You'll hear a lot more about them. They actually wrote New X-Men. Grant Morrison also wrote a small story called All-Star Superman. I read All-Star Superman last year for the first time in I want to say 10 years. I used to do this thing as a kid where I would just flip through comic books really fast. I don't know if it was because I wanted to say I read them or just because I liked the pictures and liked knowing what would happen at the end of them, but I did that a lot. And All-Star Superman was one of them. But to me, Superman is just boring. You know, he flies, you can't beat him. Even his video games, I would play them and get bored because there wasn't much to do. And by video games, I mean like the movie tie-ins. And yet I read this All-Star Superman story, and it doesn't exactly put into perspective what Superman is supposed to be. It just sheds, no pun intended, a light on what I was ignoring about him.
I believe in second chances. I believe in redemption. But mostly, I believe in my friends.
Superman is innately kind. That's his foundation. It's his baseline. He will do everything out of his heart, out of what he believes is the right thing to do, and out of kindness. He cares about things. He cares about alien races. He cares about people smiling. He cares about someone going to work and having a bad day. He cares about the random puppy crossing the street. Superman is somehow able to care about everything while also shouldering the weight of the world. All-Star Superman does a really good job of pushing that to its limit. In the story, Superman, spoilers, knows he's dying from the very beginning. And yet every turn shows him doing something that's in character for him, in the sense of like, he's wasting time, yes, but he's wasting time on exactly what Superman would be wasting time with. He's saving the world in 100 different ways. He's saving a completely different planet. He's enjoying the time with the people he loves. And then I watch something like Man of Steel, where Superman kind of just... Superman also snaps Zod's neck. Superman also kind of doesn't really care much for the collateral damage. Not to say he doesn't care, but he's not doing the best job avoiding it. He's also very brooding. He's petty. Petty's the big one. If there's one thing I would never call Soups, it's petty.
Hello?
Hi. I just wanted to let you know I'll be in late tomorrow. I'm having breakfast with Bruce.
Isn't that special?
Spider-Man is an interesting one in terms of foundational character traits, because it's in that where you can see change. Peter Parker, one of his foundational traits is that he, unfortunately, is going to suffer.
Chaos and calamity ensue. Everything Spider-Man touches comes to ruin. And we, the innocents, are left to pick up the pieces.
It's in those moments of suffering, though, for Peter, in those foundational moments of suffering, where a writer or an artist is able to kind of speak something new into the story, whether that be in Gwen Stacy's original Death, where Mary Jane is shown in a completely different light. At that point in the story, Mary Jane, who's always kind of been seen as this party girl, not in a bad way, just in a way where she enjoys herself, she enjoys to have fun, and she enjoys to be around her friends. But besides that, we hadn't been given too much substance. And in that moment where Mary Jane dies, she goes, Peter, do you want to be left alone? And Peter's kind of lashing out at her, as he tends to do. Peter's an angry guy. He tends to be angry. The world doesn't seem like it's his friend. Mary Jane chooses to stay with him. Small in nature, and yet it shows something in her without taking away from her initial foundation. If anything, it just built upon that. And from there, it built upon Peter's foundation. Peter has struggles, but it's his good nature, and it's the people he surrounds himself with that helps him out. I don't think Spider-Man would be able to be Spider-Man without Mary Jane. And I think that's where I'll leave it off. I don't know how often I'll do this. I kind of want to do it a lot. I don't know if you guys will ever enjoy hearing me talk, but...
We do not care.
And yeah, that's that. See ya.